Daniel, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Been looking forward to this.
Yeah, same.
Tell me, who is Daniel Daggers?
I'm still figuring it out.
Aren't we all?
It's just evolution of who we think we are, who we can be, what we want to be. I think it all changes, but I'm just a very normal guy.
I can tell. I like that.
Yeah.
Take me back to a younger version of Daniel growing up. Who and what influenced you into what you're doing now?
I'm an only child. My mother's Yemenite Israeli. My dad's from East London. I grew up in local authority housing. I spent time, when you're young, you spend time at school and then outside of school. So school, I went to a local Jewish school, which was a private school, and somehow I got given access to it. We didn't have a lot of money, and I went to that private school, which was great, and there was a lot of sort of successful families that sent their kids there. And then I went to a local boys club or youth centre, and that was full of kids that weren't as fortunate. But I was the black sheep in both communities, because we went to a school with lots of wealthy families, and we weren't wealthy at all. But then when I went to local boys club, I was one of the only kids that had both my parents, or both their parents. And so it was very different, and the only Jewish kid. So I am the black sheep in two communities for 10 years of my life, 11 years of my life, whatever it may be. And that was really interesting because it shaped me.
Gave you perspective as well, right? You had two different viewpoints. You had sort of one way of sort of almost feeling inferior, dare I say, in one, and then feeling like you had privilege and, you know, some of these people were really suffering and you were actually feeling quite lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I didn't realise it at the time because I would come home and I'd say to my mum, you know, we don't have much of a garden. You know, why can't I go to my friend's house? They've got a massive garden. Why don't we have a massive garden? I didn't know the difference of wealth and success. I knew nothing. And then when I went to the local youth centre and played football, you know, my dad became the manager of the under 10s, I think it was at the time. And we were waiting for kids to turn up on a Sunday morning to go and play football, and they hadn't even gone home. They were out partying at 11, 12 years old, and they're out partying, coming in with a boot bag, and in the boot bag there was alcohol and condoms, and you know, and
11, 12 years old.
11, 12, yeah. I mean, it's like life is two different kinds of lives, and probably I would say the decision that my mum and dad made about sending me to a youth centre, or allowing me to go to a youth centre to go and play football, because I love playing football, and I was a kid with so much energy, and I've still got a lot of energy. You can tell by the way I speak, I've got loads of energy. And I was just going there to play football and have fun and play table tennis and darts and penny sweets and, you know, all this sort of stuff. Probably the wisest decision my parents made was to send me to that youth centre. Probably the wisest, because I learned how to communicate with so many different kinds of people, and I understood the depth and breadth of society, even though that's not how I looked at it, because the kids were all different colours, different races, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different religions, and we all got on, and it was great. Until we didn't get on, and then there was fighting, and you had to learn to deal with all that sort of stuff.
It's interesting because as an education kind of curriculum, if you like, there's so much you're not taught in the schools.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, what you've gone on to do, being Mr Super Prime, dealing with, you know, talking about learning to deal with different people. I watched you come in here and you greeted everyone and interested in meeting them and asking what their names are and what they do.
Yeah.
But you also then are hobnobbing, if you like, and actually dealing with as clients, the wealthiest, most successful people in the world. That whole grounding, you're not taught that at school in an education curriculum, but actually that, without knowing it, it feels like that you learned that super young.
Well, my mum's very strict. My mum's very strict, and she's a very proud woman. Like she was a housewife, but like you could eat off the floor at my mum's house. Like she's unbelievably proud of everything she does. She would tell me to walk my head up, don't drag my feet. I didn't understand it. I thought it was frustrating. I couldn't, where's the value here? Like, I just want to give me a football, let me go and play football kind of thing. I didn't really get it. And then being respectful to people, my mum drilled that into me. And I saw my father, who's got the most amazing way with people. So when I went, my dad was a kitchen designer and part-time fitter. And so when I went with him on the odd occasion when I was off school or whatever it may be, I would see how his clients would greet him. And everyone would do it with a smile, right? And they would hug him or high-five him. And I was like, wow, people really love my dad. My dad's not just a shake your hand kind of guy. So what is he doing here? Because people really love him, and like we all want to be liked. Yeah, it's a balance that we're all trying to figure out. And so me going around saying hello to people and shaking hands and looking people in the eye and saying, pleasure to meet you, and so on and so on, it's just a sign of respect, but it's also a love for people. And I genuinely love people, and I love the psychology behind it and all that sort of stuff.
So learning that young, and then I guess at some point it became an interest in property. And property is a people...
Zero interest in property.
Really?
Yeah.
So was it the people side of things first and foremost?
No, it was the nature that I had to go and earn a living, and school told me that I wasn't intelligent enough to do anything that was particularly meaningful. Because if you don't succeed at school, you got to think about it. When you're young and you're up until the age of 17, how do you know any value? How do you know whether or not you're valuable or not?
It's all based on grades and passing exam, which actually parallels me, by the way.
Okay, so the two ways of looking at this outside school, which is, are you any good at football and any hobbies? So you might be horse riding or skateboarding or playing football. I was a really good footballer. I found a lot of value in that. That's what I pinned myself to. At school, I wasn't very good at school. I think I think I'm dyslexic, but I don't know. Yeah, self-diagnosed. My mum told me that I used to read backwards. School told me, because I failed at so many things and I wasn't great and my grades weren't good and something like this, you don't leave school going, I feel so empowered, I'm going to be so successful because all my grades and teachers told me that I'm going to be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant, all the things my mum wanted me to be. So I didn't go out into the big world and go, I'm going to be successful. I just wanted to nail a job and get independence by making money. That's all I wanted.
Exactly the same as me.
Yeah, I think most.
I wasn't even good at football, so I didn't even have that.
Well, then you're in trouble.
No, totally.
No, but sincerely, like I wanted to get. I remember the jobs that I was applying for. I wanted to be a sales clerk on the sales floor at one of the sports brands. I can't remember which one now, and work selling items. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no idea. Real estate was just. I did a course in business studies because I didn't qualify to do A-levels. And in the business studies, it was like a light was turned on. It was like, oh, I make money and then I send an invoice and this is what an invoice looks like. And all the practical things that I'd heard my father at the table next to me talk about over the phone. I was like, okay, now I'm understanding the practicalities of life. And I loved it. And I needed a 2-week work experience somewhere. And my dad said, go to this local estate agency. I put a call into to the head. His name's Stephen Vickers. It was Vickers and Company in Maida Vale in West London. And I worked there for 2 weeks, licked stamps, licked envelopes, folded pieces of paper, made coffees, best lesson ever. Whenever you go to a new business and you're a junior and someone asks you to make a coffee, make the worst coffee possible and you'll never get asked again. And I worked there for 2 weeks. And then about 1.5 years later, after I broke my collarbone and I was studying surveying, which I hated, I quit everything and the boss called up and said, one of our negotiators has left. Are you interested in a job? And I said, yes. And he said, what motivates you? And I said, money. But I was young.
Don't be ashamed of that. I was the same. I was the same.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I've got no problem with that. But actually, if you really think about it, to build wealth, it's not money that you're chasing. It's skill. It's skill. If you become more skilled, you will command more value. And that often looks like money. And so I went into this estate agency at 17 as a spotty teenager. I knew nothing about nothing. And he said, there's the desk, there's the phone, there's the Rolodex, there's the fax machine, go and sell real estate. And that was it. It wasn't because I was like, oh, beautiful houses.
I was interested because there's a fascination of property in the UK. There'll be many people that will look
get on the ladder.
You. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that also comes through a number of people I know that have been successful in business, or as they are achieving success in business and accumulating wealth, they have then approached me about wanting to invest into property.
Great.
That's what I mean by the fascination. And a number of them will then turn around and say, I've been successful in business, in a corporate career, or entrepreneurially, but I wish I'd gone into property. And you sort of think, well, actually, you've done really well there. There's just a real interest in it. So
it's
a lot
tangible.
Of people, yeah.
The thing about it is that it's tangible. People like the idea.
Yes.
Look, there's an element of romance about it and practicality. We've all grown up, Brits have grown up and said, must get on the property ladder. Okay, it's not like that in Germany. It's not like that everywhere in the world. So we all have that sneaky little desire because it's been planted as a seed and watered over the years that you want to buy your own real estate. Okay, and then you want to drive past it and go, yeah, I own that.
Yeah, there's a sense of identity and legacy.
Sure.
That's changing now. I don't want to jump around too much, but gosh, with the recent government legislation and targeting landlords, that aspirational element of a lot of people around me that want to accumulate a portfolio, hand it to the children, is very quickly changing. It's becoming a headache. It's becoming not a yield-generating asset. Are you seeing that in super prime?
People buy real estate now as a store of value at super prime levels, not to make money. Very hard to make money in the super prime level. You have to be very brave to buy real estate, pay the stamp duty, tax associated, inflation in build costs, then the year's worth of holding or 2 years worth of holding, 3 years worth of holding costs, and then to exit. Unless you've got very cheap capital, it's very hard to make money in real estate, particularly at the top end.
Is there a sort of almost an asset accumulation and status that goes with the purchasing, or is it typically people buying to live, or is there an element of I want that? It's almost like a bit of a trophy.
It's a bit of everything. It depends where people are coming from. But what we see is that when there is a lot of insecurity in the world, people want to buy fixed assets, hard assets, okay? So that's real estate or art or jewelry and stuff like this. But real estate doesn't tend to fluctuate aggressively, okay? Even during the financial crisis, we had 10% drop in values, but then we bounced back a year and a half later or a year later. There were a couple of people that mistimed the market, and if you had to sell, then it was a problem. But anyone who stayed in it did relatively well. But we haven't had much asset inflation in a decade now. And so there is a question as to why do you buy assets? Why do you buy real estate? It tends to be for a store of value because people think it's safe.
And going back to that sort of journey of yours, what got you into super prime?
Effort. It's funny, no one really gave a toot about me for 15 years, okay? And I worked consistently every single day for 15 years to get to a point where people go, oh, this guy's quite interesting after I started producing content on social media channels. No one really sees that I went into work as a 17-year-old. My dad says this to me. I never had to question why you weren't at work. You're at work every single day. You went into the office, no complaints. I might have been 10 minutes late and live around the corner from the office, right? No excuses. I'll tell you a funny story actually, because it's great. Often the two bosses in an eight-person business, and it was a glass box, and I was sat in the window, the two bosses would come in late at around 10 o'clock. So I'm living around the corner. I've got no excuses to be late. And I walked in one day and I saw them. I parked my car. You could see into the office the two bosses there. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is not good. And it was like 9:20. So I was having a panic attack, going in. I'm like 18 years old. And I had no excuses. So they looked at me as I walked in. I said, I'm so sorry I'm late, but an elephant landed on my house. And I just thought to myself, it's the only way I can break the ice here. And I got a little bit of a smirk from one of them. And the other one laughed. And I sat down and got on with it. But effort got me to the point where I'm dealing with higher value properties and I saw opportunity. And when you see it, and my opportunity was, I've worked in this market, I'm good at what I do, I've got a good reputation amongst my peers, not just my customer base, and my peers wanted me to go and work at higher value properties, and I decided to take a job, and it was the right decision. I moved to a big firm and I made mistakes, and then I learned from them.
There's a real humility with you, despite the amount of success and the amount of effort you've put in. But you're prepared to champion that sort of thing, because I think that's like the amount of people that want to be successful, but dare I say, won't put that effort in. And you mentioned that word consistency.
Yeah. Showing
up every day, being professional, and being, a personality. Talking to you for only 10 minutes now. You're a pleasure to talk with. You're fun, but you also can bring it down to backing it up with stats, backing it up with a huge amount of experience. Do you think that's what sort of got you noticed after 15 years? It's actually, this is the guy that sold huge numbers of property, knows everyone, and then you become the go-to. Do you think that's sort of where you reach that sort of critical mass?
I think I was building brand. And my personal brand was, this guy's consistent, okay? So I have clients that know me since I was 17, 18 in the window at Vickers, and now running my own business and selling multi-million-pound homes, 100-million-pound homes. And they've seen my journey, so they've come with me. So my brand was, he's relatively smart guy, yeah? He's a nice guy, he says it how it is, and he will tell you what he believes is right, okay? And do we trust his judgment and his opinion? And after time, that becomes more powerful. Your words become more powerful. And so I always thought, I didn't know this, but my personal brand was really valuable because I had nothing. I didn't have a wealthy family to support me. I didn't have wealthy contacts to support me. I had very little to convince people to do business with me. So all I had was me. And therefore, I had to make sure that what I said I was going to deliver on, I was going to deliver on. And what I said was going to happen, I had to really think about it because I was going to put my head on a stick and say, this is what I think is going to happen. And after time, people then really feel your brand. They talk about you at the dinner table. They talk about you and they refer clients to you and friends because they feel that it's safe because this guy is the guy.
Personal brand's becoming huge now, isn't it? And I think it was not prioritized as much and not a focus for certain people. And with what you do, it's a relationship. You've got to ultimately have someone trust you to either find them the property or to be entrusted to sell a property for them. And some of these people, by default, I mentioned it earlier, are super successful. And by default could have a fair amount of ego, fair amount of used to being treated a certain way. And you actually then have got to be able to advise them and tell them what they need to hear. Are there any sort of clashes of opinion and people you struggle to deal with where they will say property's worth X or I think it's, should be positioned this way, and you've actually got to disagree and demonstrate with your experience why it's different?
The tricky thing for real estate professionals is that the barrier to entry is really low, which means that everyone thinks that they could be a real estate professional and everyone knows everything about real estate and there's data there, so I know how much my property is worth. And often there's very little to argue about the data. Yeah, often. So it's about placement and strategy and opinion and guidance and on market, off market and all this sort of stuff. And so you have to be convincing, and to do that, you have to say, this is what I've done previously and your reputation goes with you. How you articulate it to different kinds of people is the skill. Okay, so I'll know who I'm dealing with before I go there. I'll research that individual. I'll find out whether or not they're in finance or they're in copper technology, and we know a lot about technology, or media, and I will describe the issues that we have in selling the real estate in the way that they want to receive it and understand it better. And that is a skill that you just learn over years.
Yeah, that's also something that you can demonstrate, not just from a comparable property down the road sold for same money and the person's challenging you, and you've got to then demonstrate why actually, well, that's just by being down the road, it's actually a very different proximity. We're right next to the park here, there's an aspect and so on. And that takes some explaining because data doesn't tell the full story, right?
No, because there's loads of nuances.
Yeah, and then bringing data into what you do. So Daniel as a personality and personal brand, and then your wider team is one thing. But with AI coming into so much business now, are you embracing that? Can you bring that technology into what you do?
There's going to be democratization of the information that surrounds real estate. And we're going to use that data as a total market. So what you'll find in estate agents will use their own data, particularly the big corporates. They'll go, we are the epicenter of everything that happens in real estate. And actually, I've always wanted to work with total data, total market data. When you work with total market data, you'll get a better understanding as to what the market's doing. And then you can anticipate. The thing about data is that it's past data. It's things that have happened historically that will hopefully create a pattern moving forward. What you want to do with that as a business is you want to use that data as like a base foundation of a rule. But you want to be prepared to break that rule subject to what's happening culturally. Okay? So data may suggest that this group of people are buying real estate in this neighborhood. But what happens if there is a war in that region? And all of a sudden there's not those many people coming into this country. That's going to have an impact on the historical data, and it won't necessarily say the same story moving forward. So you have to use the data as a foundation, give that to your agents and the advisors in our business, and then they have to understand and interpret what it may look like in the future and anticipate.
That makes sense.
And that's down to culture.
I'm interested, if you had a property, for example, we've got a mutual friend, John Caldwell.
Yeah.
So we've both been inside that incredible Mayfair property, and of course he's building the properties next door. So without using John's properties as the example, but going into a property that, dare I say, is incredibly unique. It might be just the size of it. It might be the way that it's specified and it's kitted out.
Yeah.
In your capacity then, and I'm sort of using empathy here, I'm trying to imagine, where do you draw upon other examples, comparables when there may not be one, to actually put a value on that, and then meet the expectations of what the client might have.
So we're dealing with unique assets all the time. When something is truly unique, it has its own market. But you have to recognize that that is only for a single person that will really appreciate it. And how you communicate that message to the market is very important. It's the skill of communication that creates more value for the client. And that is whether or not you do it in person, or you do it verbally, or you do it over social media channels, or you do it in a PR campaign. How you deliver that message is vitally important.
It's fascinating, that.
Yeah, like it's the skill of the communication that really counts. We were talking about personal brand before. The reason why real estate agents is a frowned upon community. But ironically, I think that I'm the first real estate agent that has to deal with envy. Because no one really wanted to be a real estate agent 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. It was a profession filled with people who didn't make it as lawyers and accountants and so on and so on. And so now it's seen as cool and sexy because what we're doing over social media channels and my personal profile and Netflix and things like that. The biggest issue that we've had is people have hidden behind the corporate veil. And that means that you don't have to accept accountability on what you do. So on the flip side is, if you're not accepting any form of accountability, you can't be proud of your work. I want to be unbelievably accountable so I can be really proud.
Yeah.
It comes from my mother, right? My mum's so proud. So we're in a place now where people are the business. The way I look at individuals on platform economy is that people are the CEO of their business, CFO of their business, and CMO of their business. They're creating content as the CMO. CFO, they're spending money as an investment for their business, and they're the CEO because they are who they are. And when you have the opportunity to speak to the public, you're the face of your business.
That's interesting, that, because Netflix is a good example, actually. I really enjoyed the series, watched it with my wife. And sitting with you now, that importance of communication, personality, personal brand as Daniel, and the pride that you've got, it resonates, it radiates from you. But then you've got to grow a team that represent that. And your reputation is important. So these people are super important to you, not just so that you can actually scale what you do, but also they're important in the context of if one of them was to let themselves down, they let you down.
Yeah.
How do you choose someone to grow into the team of DDRE?
You're talking about culture. You're talking about culture and what we want to grow within the business and make sure people are accountable, make sure they do the right thing, deliver a greater, deeper service, and be proud of their work. The pride piece is very important because if you're proud about what you're doing, you're going to go extra lengths. And you're going to recognize when you put your face on camera and you are the face of your business, which they are. We're a technological platform, okay, that supports them. And I can go into more detail, but they are the face of their business. So when people become the face of their business, they all of a sudden think very carefully about the decisions that they make, because wherever you go in today's world now, people can find you. And so you have to be very straight, very, very straight. And you have to do good and really set examples for yourself. And I have to do that every single day. People have very, very high bar for me. Trying to achieve that bar every single day is very difficult. But if I set the example, other people will set the example. And then if they do it in the public domain, they have to continue that.
Yeah, consistency again.
It's consistency, and it's also self-policing.
So would you be taking people into DDRE that, dare I say, have not had real estate experience?
Yes.
And actual estate agency experience?
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
so you're bringing in the individual that you then know you can actually train the rest.
So there's a reason for it. We are really into technology and media and content. We're actually a technology media marketing business, DDRE, and we help incubate personal brand to deliver a great real estate service, okay, to their clients.
Does that set you apart from the sales and the life?
Totally, absolutely. The thing about this concept is that we can teach people the skill of being a real estate agent. So for instance, no one teaches anybody how to say hello to somebody professionally. How do you say hello to a woman who's wearing a hijab, who comes to see a property? How do you do that? Well, if you create an environment where agents, or advisors we call them, feel uncomfortable, They make the customer uncomfortable, and therefore you can't grow your relationship. So you need to train people in delivering a great service. Now, we can do that. We have an online platform that trains agents, and it's the skill that I've learned over years, and we've put it into a platform, and they can go off and they can truly understand how to be a real estate agent, how to show property. No one ever taught me how to show property. If we can teach that skill, what's really difficult is finding people who can communicate it. And if you find people who can communicate it well over digital channels or in person, they become very valuable. And so due to the low level of entry in real estate, we now have a great opportunity to bring people with talent and skill into our environment and train them and get them executing a service that people haven't received before.
That's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you what your USP is, your unique selling point, and it's clear that there's Daniel's USP, which is your personality, which is a combination of all your experience and all your upbringing, and then you've brought something really unique as a business as well. It's a great marriage.
Well, I don't believe anyone is going to do business with a service provider in the future that is a stranger.
Yeah, I totally see that.
I just find that absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have children?
I do, 2 daughters.
Okay.
Congratulations to you. You're a recent dad, right?
Thank you. I'm a recent dad. Yeah.
How old are my kids are 13 and 15.
Would you put your 13-year-old daughter into an Uber?
No.
Okay. Why not?
When you say would I put them in an Uber, as in actually.
Would you order an Uber for your 13-year-old daughter?
I just contradicted myself because I have done that.
You have done it before, but your immediate reaction is no because you feel uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it because that person's a stranger?
Yeah.
Okay, but you're prepared to go to a service provider, to an estate agent who you've never met before in your life, you know nothing about them, you're going to give them you're going to give them the keys to your home where your partner sleeps and your kid sleeps, where you have all your valuables. It's the most precious space in your life is your home. And you're going to give a key to a stranger because they work under a banner. I think that's absolutely crazy. Yet you won't put your kid in a car where you know in real time where they are, who the individual is, what their contact information are, and they're being tracked.
Yeah.
I just think it's crazy. And in a world of digitization, we've gone from a place, and I've done some research on this, but we've gone from a place of 6 degrees of separation to 3. And that means that we all know more people that deliver a service. So I'm pretty certain I could ask you, hey, do you have a good back specialist? And you'll probably tell me someone you know. The same thing's going to happen into real estate, okay? And it's about time.
Do you find on that basis that regardless of how much, dare I say, publicity you've had, Netflix and the actual kind of, if you like, sort of shop front and so on, majority of people that come to you are through referral, through someone that's dealt with you?
100%.
Yeah. That's powerful, right?
They're the strongest pieces of business.
Yeah.
And the thing about it, as you go up in value, the ultra high net worth community don't want strangers around them. There's no trust or accountability, what I call trust equity. You earn it. And the way that you end up finding your client base is through trust equity. So I'm building trust equity with you right now, and you will then refer me to somebody else.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're sharing trust equity with other people in your environment. And we're doing this, it's a form of transaction, but we're doing it with what I call trust equity. And that's what we really need to focus on.
And you're being positioned not just as someone that can help them with the property, you're being positioned as someone that they like, and they'll have nice things to say about you, which is not just the whole, you need to speak to Daniel, he'll sell your property. It's like, oh, he's a good guy. And you said you're going to Doha tomorrow, been invited by the royal family, right? That's, but these guys want to spend time with you.
Correct.
That's what I can tell. I'm enjoying this.
Well, I hope so.
I'm conscious of time. I wanted to ask you that as a successful businessman, entrepreneur, sitting here now, how do you define success?
I think the definition changes the older you get, just with age. Success when I was 18 was to get a subwoofer in my Vauxhall Corsa, okay? And then I wanted to get a bit older, and then I wanted to buy my own home, bought my own home. And then I wanted to get a nice car, so I bought a nice car. And then I wanted to get a watch. And then I bought another watch when I broke up with an ex-girlfriend. I was feeling sad about it, and I thought the watch was going to give me pleasure and happiness, and it didn't, and I learned that. And so gradually through the years, you just learn that success looks different. For the 17-year-old who follows me on social media, or the 24-year-old who's been working for 6 years, I may be the person that they look up to and go, well, I would love to achieve his levels of success. But in the moment today, I'm looking at other people going, I would love to achieve their levels of success. And that's a constant drive. And I love that because all I want to do is be the best version of myself every single day.
Love
and
that.
I don't know where I'm going to get to.
So it's the journey. It's not the
It's all about the
destination.
journey.
I so parallel that, the shiny things as you're younger and you've just become a dad, and there's a whole legacy. There's a whole, the message I exchanged with you prior to filming today, it changes your whole perspective on life. So then success is about building a platform for, as much as you can for your children to come into.
I found in my life that the more value I created for other people, the more successful I got. Okay, and you might look at that as a very selfish way of looking at things, but I'm trying to do good for more people, and the more good that I do for more people, the more successful I get. So it's a very nice circular way of life and sort of ecosystem. And so I always want to do good. It's not just for my kid. Like the legacy piece is my kid or multiple kids one day, maybe, hopefully. I want them to have the ability that they can feel proud of their father and their mum and their family. But I also want to help Remy, Benji, all achieve their goals because I think I can help them. And if I can help people, I love that.
They'll feel that though, which goes back
Yes.
to what you were saying about building. It's like building a tribe,
Yeah.
building a community of people that are all aligned and all, facing in a direction with purpose.
Yeah.
You said you wanted to be the best version of yourself, which I can relate to as well. So by default, that means you've got to look after yourself both mentally and physically from a fitness point of view. What do you do? What works for you?
I found it really difficult to find balance. I think that when you're extremely driven, I sent text messages to my friends like, how do you feel about having a kid? And I was like, it was primal. I felt like if anyone came near my family, I would kill them, right? It was a feeling I've never felt before in my life. And also, I'm even more determined than ever before. And my friends and clients would send me text messages, I don't think you're lacking in that department. I'm unbelievably determined. And when you are, it's hard to find balance. And I think that when you spend so much time thinking about balance, you lose your determination and you lose that North Star and you lose that drive and you lose that opportunity. And so I don't think I'll ever live a life with amazing balance. And I'm not trying to. But I do want to correct and recognize when I'm going too far with something. So I talk a lot to myself. I don't know if that's a skill because I've heard that there's some people that can't talk to themselves, but I talk a lot to myself.
Out loud?
No, in my head. And I say wonderful things to myself. I have done since I was a kid. I've always had that inner belief that I can achieve things in realms of reality.
I love that because so many people got an inner bitch voice that's just beasting them and fighting that the whole time.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it comes from, but I've always felt that if I could do something, I'm going to do it. And I speak very kindly to myself. I've got no problem. Anyone that works for me that can stand in front of the mirror and say to themselves, you're brilliant, you're amazing, you're great, you can do it, you can
really
make it
refreshing,
happen.
that.
Like, I love that.
I think it's a British thing. I think the British are particularly hard on. So the Americans, they'll talk in the mirror and say, you're amazing, you got this, you're awesome. And then the British kind of would be potentially struggling with it. I think that's changing, but I think that has been a culture I've been...
It's a hierarchical system here.
Yeah.
We have a very hierarchical system. And
don't show emotion, pride, keep it locked in.
Yeah, I mean, it does help keeping the norm. When you have lots of people just sat in the corner, just do your piece, just do your thing. I just don't believe in that. I think it's because I'm multicultural. My background's multicultural. I have just a different attitude to things. But the way I look at things is that if I can't do something or I'm not very good at it, I will recognize it and I won't spend any time on it. Like, I can't spell. I am terrible at spelling. So when I write a piece on LinkedIn, I'll get spelling mistakes wrong. I'll get my spelling wrong. I've got no problem with that. That's me. That's okay. That's okay. That's not my skill. That's not where I succeed. But if you're going to talk to me, and this is where ego comes in, where people start to think, oh, you're really egotistical. But I'm going to spend time on things I'm really good at. Yeah, so I was a really good footballer. So I'm going to spend so much time playing football because I love it. And that coincidentally means I'm really good at it, which means that I'm going to keep doing it and I'm going to keep getting better. I'm a decent bowler. But am I going to spend any time playing darts? No. Now, I'm not even going to talk about darts, and my competitors and people around me are going to say, but you're really egotistical because you only talk about things that you're really good at. I'm like, but you don't talk to me about things that I'm not good at. And if you ask me if I'm good at go-kart racing or darts or spelling, I'm going to say to you, no, I'm horrendous at it, but I just don't spend any time there. I really focus on my strengths. And that gives you the ability of constant improvement, and being good in environments where you're good at stuff enables you to grow your self-worth. And I love that.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying talking to you. I've got one question to end on, actually, which is, and I think you've bottled up a lot of this, but there's so much advice and experience that's coming from you, and that's from maturity and, again, all the experiences you've had. But someone aspirationally looking into your world and wanting to get into certainly property and the super prime world, what advice would you give them?
Your personal brand is how you are with people and how you make people feel. And if you can digitize that, you're going to give yourself some freedom in the future where you can be independent. And if you choose to do that, it will be the oxygen for you to build your business at whatever you do. That is vital. But remaining consistent at something for a long time compounds. Without
necessarily getting a pat on the back or any sort of visibility of reward.
No one cared about.
If you're consistent, you just,
Sure.
You're building something, right?
Oh, and often people think you're crazy. First sign of success is you're crazy. So was I crazy to work at Vickers for 10 years and earn £7,000 a year? Was I crazy to do that? If that gave me the foundation of where I live today, where I am today, the people I can spend time with.
So be prepared to if you're aspirational and wanting to make money, it may not come straight away, but look at the environment you're in, learn from it, and you'll elevate.
It's not money, it's skill.
I love that.
If you learn skill and you can do something that other people can't do as well as you, or as fast as you, or efficient as you, then you will win all day long because you have the ability to speak to the public now. That is unbelievably valuable. So if you can create value and get better and better and better at the thing that you're good at, and then document it into the world, which you can now with social media channels, you will find that wealth will come. It's
brilliant. Daniel, you're a pleasure to talk with. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed this.
My pleasure.
Cheers.
Thanks.